next question. Does technology change the job of the accountant? I've got my thoughts, but I'd love to hear yours first.
I think the answer is a resounding yes.
Hmm.
I mean, it doesn't have to be. You know, you could still go like what I guess would be called old school at this point, and just sort of like muscle your way through it. But it 100% does. And I mentioned just a little earlier, I was at QuickBooks Connect, and a lot of the talk was around that, right? Sort of how does our role evolve as the technology evolves?
Hmm.
And it's not that we're doing anything different. It's sort of we just now have time to have conversations.
Hmm.
I came from a big company that was part of a listed entity when I was in South Africa. We did for parts of the month, we're just like, don't even talk to us, right? Like, I'm going to be in this office for 16 hours getting the month end done. Like, don't bother me. Like, I don't have time for your meeting. I'll talk to you on the 6th business day. That's when we have time. But they're like, well, we have an emergency now. I'm like, well, I don't care, right? And I think a lot of, accountants sort of deal with this. And I know I do as well. I'll go to a conference that's like on the 3rd business day. And I'm like, how's this accounting conference on the 3rd business day? Do they not understand how busy we are? And I think with technology, it's going to take a lot of those peaks out of it because a lot of stuff can be automated. You can use the AI technology to sort of move things forward a little bit quicker. There's a bunch of tools that can go, obtain documentation for you that you don't have to wait for your client. So there's just going to open up opportunities to you move away from just doing the busy work to having the conversation, explaining to people what it means and what these adjustments could do. Mm-hmm. It gives you opportunity to create better processes, become more efficient, and sort of what you just spoke about now, live your life a little bit more. So right. I don't think like there's obviously that big thing, oh, we're all turning into consultants. Like, yeah, I don't think that's true. Like, I think that's oversimplifying the situation. Like, it's definitely going to open up opportunities for more consulting. But it's not going to take away from, there's still work that needs to be done. And that's fine, but the tools will make it more efficient, should make it easier, it should make it less error prone, and it should allow us accountants to do what we're good at, and that's actually analyze the information and provide good feedback.
Yeah. I think you're spot on with that. And I think that sentiment has been, I would say, probably on the forefront of our minds, even when we started talking about, accounting moving to the cloud and, updating the technology that we have, or what is it, RPA, robotic process automation. Like, all of those things have been true. Automating the lower value added tasks so you can focus more on the higher value added tasks. I think, I do think also that the job of the accountant starts to change more and more. And you see this in what is resonating with the marketplace, like where you see them spending more money, and like, because where people spend more money is always an indication of where they're placing their value. And time and again, the things that are most valuable for the people, what they're paying the most money for, is, like you said, advice. They're paying for somebody who they trust. And this is something that I think we cannot overlook is, and I'm not saying this as like a Luddite. I'm not saying that this as a way of like saying, oh, technology is never going to come for my job. But the reality is, even as much as ChatGPT is amazing, even as amazing as these AI models being trained are, I really think people are still going to feel a certain sense where I want somebody who I know and trust to give me kind of the thumbs up on what this model is spitting out. Or at least, if for nothing else, give me more color behind the answer that the AI model is spitting out. Because, just the other day I had somebody, we were on a call, and they were asking about what tax form a professional services corporation would be under. And I was like, and the answer that it gave was, it's always Form 1120. I'm like, well, no, it depends on how it's choosing to be elected. If it's an S corp or a C corp, it's going to determine that. So stuff like that, like you're not always going to have the nuance, but if you have an advisor, somebody you trust, they might be able to give some color and perspective to kind of like cross-reference and that kind of stuff. So I do think there's still going to be a need for a trusted kind of third party, but I think more and more that third party is going to need to be have broader reach in the business. You know, I just got off a call with a client of mine. We were recording a client testimonial, and interestingly enough, the things that were most like had the greatest like light bulb moments and or the most value in our engagement wasn't really the accounting. It wasn't really the finance. It was we didn't realize that our sales and marketing function wasn't built and constructed in the way that's going to produce sustainable results. It's like, what would a fractional CFO, what would an accountant have to say about that? Well, it's like, I think that's where our future is headed, is like, we need to become more and more general business advisors and start to spread into the things that really matter and use finance and use the numbers to give those insights so that people will make better decisions for their business holistically.
Yeah. I mean, we did some brand work early in the year and to sort of ask people why they work with us, right? And it wasn't because we created accounting, like that never came up. And what they told us is that, like, give us peace of mind. You know, and that's the big part, is like, we're consistent, we're accurate, and we answer their questions on a timely basis. And I think one of the overlooked things that many accountants do, that I know a piece of technology kind of way, is to be that person that they turn to bitch about things. Be that person that they turn to when things are really tough and they just need a shoulder to like cry on, basically, right? Like, they're turning, like, I'm stuck, I'm struggling, I'm like, what do we do? Like, I can type that into ChatGPT. It's probably going to tell me to call a hotline, right? That's not true. Super helpful information. It's the planning, the strategy, like, okay, what are the next steps that need to come from it? But I do think it does change who the accountant is, right? I think, you know, we probably need to do a whole another recording on just the space of how to get people into the accounting space again session. But, you know, I think there are a lot of times when people are very introverted, good at numbers, they're like, go be accountants because you can hide behind your laptop. I think that's going to go away.
I agree with
I mean, in realistic terms, like, that's never been true. Right. I mean, I quickly found that out my first job. You know, walk in my first day at KPMG and they're like, cool, we got this document. Can you go talk to that person? What? Who? You know, like, you just had to figure it out. Like that, you know, these things just, you can't hide behind it. But I think it's going to become more prevalent because the role and the way, you know, you ask any, like, you know, students are using it now, what is an accountant? Because they want to understand what it is. I think that description's already changing away from somebody that puts numbers in a book to somebody that provides advice.
Absolutely.
So the whole job becomes different.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, where it's like, yeah, this is actually not the field that you want to go to if you don't want to ever have interactions with people. Because, like, in order for us to be an effective business partner, we need to have people skills. We need to be connected with these people. So yeah, I would agree with that for sure. And maybe this kind of answers that next question, but, like, how does it change who the accountant is? How it changes the accountant of the future? Do you have any other thoughts, I guess, on that?
Well, I was hoping this one would be a good segue into, like, our next recording. Hopefully we can find some time in the next month or so to figure it out. But, you know, trying to figure out what that next accountant is and how do we get those people in, I think it's going to be a very important conversation for everybody in the accounting space. You know, I tell this story often. When I was in high school, I was told to go do accounting because I was good at accounting. But when I went to the colleges, they didn't tell me come and study to be a chartered accountant because you'll be a great accountant. They showed me pictures of CEOs, COOs, general managers, all these really successful people running companies that just happen to have the chartered accountancy qualification. They never sold me as the next, like, tax partner. Like, no, that's boring, right? Nobody wants to hear about that type of stuff. They want to hear about the people who studied to be accountants and then went on and did something exciting. Something, you know, that made a difference. Something that made them super rich. You know, people want to know, will this accounting job make me a tax partner, or does this give me a basis to be an entrepreneur, to be successful? And I think we need to get back to that type of sales point to get people back into the space. And I think if you look around and, like, I'm starting to reach the point where I'm the old guy in the room, right? I'm definitely there. There's a lot of really young, smart people, especially if you look in the content creating world around accounting, that are doing some amazing stuff. And they're very people orientated, they're very advice focused, they're very entrepreneurial. And I do feel like there's going to be more need for an entrepreneur, real person, to sort of get into the accounting space.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure if that's a good thing for CPA qualifications and everything else that comes along with it, because that might kill their pipeline more. But I truly believe if you want to be successful in business, you need to have some sort of accounting basis.
I 100% agree. 100% agree. I think the one thing that I would add to the conversation is, now this is going to sound radical, but I fundamentally think higher education is, I mean, in many ways is failing us as an accounting profession, but more so is just like failing us as working people in general. And I personally think we need to bring back the apprenticeship model, because time and again, apprentices and the apprenticeship methodology is, I mean, it's proven to be what the market wants. You even just look at it as like, hey, here's an entry level position that we want you to have 1 to 3 years of experience for. It's like that whole thought is like, we want you to know how to do it, but we also want you to show that you've done it before. And it's like, I mean, that's literally what it is to be an apprentice. And like, how many times you go take this class that, if we're being honest, probably 80% of is completely irrelevant to the normal day-to-days of many accountants. You're only learning it. You're basically learning by exception. You're not learning the general rules that we need as we spend. We're majoring in the minors kind of thing.
Yep.
And so I think either higher level education needs to look totally different as we, as technology continues to progress, or I think we need to accommodate something like an apprenticeship model that can give people better jobs and also a better idea of what they're actually getting themselves into with accounting.
Yeah. And I mean, I always look back in my study career, and, obviously it's a long time since I finished. I finished high school in 2002, right? So there's a little bit of a difference, but I went to university, and the course I signed up for was a BCom accounting for chartered accountants. That was it. Like, there was no doubt what I was there for. I was studying to become a chartered accountant. 0 electives. Just get it done. 3 years, I'm done. Went to do my postgrad, 1 year, done. And then they're like, hey, if you want to be a chartered accountant, well, you got to write these board examinations. And to be eligible for them, you have to go work for a training institute. Now, the CPA firms, the audit firms, like, I was at KPMG, they are training institutes. And I have to go there, and I have to spend 3 years, and there's core hours I have to get, which are just, I work and work in the right space, do some audit, do some tax. My tax was like literally just a 1-day course, and they signed me off. Cool, you're good. Unless you want to go into tax and specialize, like, you don't need to do more than that. And that was the model. 7 years in and out. I'm a chartered accountant, got 3 years of great experience. People are willing to hire me because they know I've got the basis. Obviously, I got the benefit of a Big Four, which obviously is shiny. You don't need that, but it obviously helped me in finding a job because it put me on top of a pile. Because the AI at that point was saying, "Oh, Big Four, he's got to be smart, right?" Not necessarily true, but that's what it is. And it was a very simple process. I knew exactly what I was in. I knew exactly what the steps were along the way. I knew I was going to have to work hard, but I was still getting a decent salary. Not great, but more than survivable. And that's just the way we operated. And it was crystal clear. And, 7 years and I'm done. I'm a chartered accountant with 3 years experience.
Yeah. I mean, and I honestly think that definitely is getting a step in the right direction. It's, in a lot of ways, I feel like better than what we have here in the States.
I mean, I still don't understand your guys' undergrads, and I probably won't until my kids have to go through it.
No. Hey, let's spend 4 years. And oh, by the way, let's spend an extra whole year, which I know there's lots of dialogue about nixing that 5th year, because that's a whole nother, I think we have plenty more.